It's always been numbers. And I started at Arthur Andersen, which many years ago, started in '79, so it's been a while. And it was in their audit practice. And it was really auditing, at this time, large Fortune 500 companies. So here's a kid from, Cocoa Beach, Florida, now up in the Midwest, where all there is manufacturing, and all I knew was orange groves and vacations. And it actually caught my fancy to be walking through manufacturing plants and understanding how things were being made and how that translated into financial statements. It was quite complex. It still is. And so for me, it was a whole new world. And so I spent a few years doing that, and then I decided it was time to go back and get my MBA, and I did that at University of Michigan, which was wonderful. And I taught accounting while I was there to undergrads, another really great experience. And then from there, I decided to go from the professional service into the corporate world. So I went into Ford Motor Company. And at that time, it was in the late 80s, and Ford was really riding high. It was the darling of Wall Street, and they were quite well known for what I would call their finance boot camp. And so what is the finance boot camp? Finance boot camp is not accounting. The people that were in finance really interface a lot with the operations, the people who are responsible for running the business, to help them understand the decisions that they were making, how that was actually ending up in the story called the financials. Because for me, the financials have turned out always to be a puzzle to understand what the company is actually doing. It's just a scorecard. You're not really doing anything but keeping score. But you have to understand the business to say, are they making good decisions? Are they making bad decisions? And so at Ford, what they had you do is forecasts and budgets and business plans, and you were always interfacing with the people who ran the business. So for me, it was always fun. But I decided, after I had spent about 8 years in the corporate world, to get back into the consulting world. And that's when I went with a local consulting firm in Detroit named BBK. And that firm, all that we did was restructuring. And that was another whole new world opened up. So I had really gone from large corporates now to this very small entrepreneurial firm who had as their clients the large corporates. So for me, it was like, now I had a foot in entrepreneurship and I had a foot where I was used to being. And it turned out I loved it. And it was a great, great time. For about 16 or 17 years, I did restructuring in the automotive space and worked for, my clients included like General Motors and Ford and Chrysler and Toyota and Honda. And so I would say I would have a lot of experience in the automotive sector, and particularly in the supply sector. And it was about 3.5 years ago when Ernst & Young was reestablishing their own U.S. restructuring practice. And they wanted to have somebody who was available to actually be the leader of their Midwest practice, which includes Michigan, Illinois, Missouri, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, all the way down to Indiana. So I have now this bigger region, and not just automotive, but all different kinds of industries. So it's been a really a nice journey to really put a nice capstone on my career with a global company, because what we actually do now in the automotive space is totally global, and you have to have a global footprint. So that is a kind of how I got to where I am today.